Hey y'all, hey, I'm back. Um, so over the last couple of days, I've been kind of just trying to get through. I guess God working with me on the last few things that I need to get over, so I can have my peaceful pregnancy. And I was kind of having a heavy day yesterday. I woke up kind of late. I usually don't, but I slept in till almost like 11 o'clock yesterday. And I woke up feeling heavy um, and a lot of times I want to put that on my husband, like to talk through those moments or whatever. But I realized yesterday that the reason that those conversations aren't as successful for me is the part of my life that I want to talk about. He wasn't there, you know, and not in a way that you can't talk to people about your past or whatever, but it's easier to talk to them about it when you work through things. When you're trying to work through things, it's easier to look to people that were a part of that. And I called my mom, and we talked about a lot yesterday. I think we was on the phone for like maybe like 4 or 5 hours yesterday, just talking through a lot of things. And it made me realize how important our parents are in our healing. And even though I have been trying to work on things with my parents before this year, I think this year has just everything that's happened this year has really cultivated a place for us to be able to um, communicate. Really, it's not much bigger than that. I don't think before this year that my pain and resentment or anger about things allowed me to communicate with them as just people. And we have had conversations, but I still needed a minute after those, still needed some time to further think about it and process it on my own. So this year, especially with me getting married and them being here for it, being part of my wedding, I think it really healed up things between us where we could start to just have conversations. And this is one thing that really did start it. My dad, a couple weeks ago, had sent me a scripture that he said my big ma taught him. And since then, he's been sending me scriptures and being very positive. And I had struggled a lot with the biggest thing I was struggling with my dad is I never thought he had forethought for us. Or for me, for that matter. Like, I just never, no, for all of us, me and my siblings, I just never thought like he had forethought for us. Like, everything was kind of like we was just falling into it together, and he was as confused as we were. And I just never really understood it because we come from him. And so when whatever had me heavy yesterday kind of happened a couple days ago. What I had seen a couple days ago had started working my mind on what had me wake up heavy yesterday. And my dad had sent me this on Sunday. And it said, living life being one of God's chosen is not for the weak. The devil will not go after those they do not fear. The devil will only go after those that he knows are trying to do God's will. Stand strong in your beliefs. There will be days where you will wonder, guess, and think that nothing is going right. But just remember that things are always tough right before a breakthrough. And to read that from my dad, I broke down crying. Like, that was the first time I felt my dad had foresight for me. And for me not to have spoken that to anybody and him feel that and send me that message, it healed something between me and my dad. And I haven't even responded to it. I'm gonna respond to him after this video. But for every good, you think about all the times you didn't have it, and I think you need to process through those moments, because that's what's bringing you to appreciate this so strongly. But it's important not to dwell there. It's important not to dwell in the space of the years you didn't have it, because they are showing up in that way, and you have to be grateful and appreciative of whatever has happened to make that happen. And I was just talking to my mom about the time we had lost, and me being in foster care, and me losing my entire family at one time. Not many people know what that feels like, or even when I was in that situation, I would feel like I wanted away from it. So it was a double-edged kind of thing, because I was happy that I wasn't in the pain anymore, but you don't ever calculate everything that comes with that. And my mom said something to me when we were talking yesterday. She said, words have power. I used to say I didn't know what I would do without your dad and y'all. And then I had to live it. I had to live without your dad, and I had to live without my kids. And I had to figure out what I would do without y'all. And I told my mom I never thought about her pain with us being gone. Like, I seen what my dad leaving did to her, but I felt like it had broke her so much that us being taken away from her kind of gave her a well-needed break. I never really thought about the pain she was living through without her children being with her. And it's not that I never seen my mom cry about it, when she would be talking to us, but when it was happening, I felt like it was more out of embarrassment that she had lost her kids than me connecting. Like, as my mother, she was crying for the loss of me or my sisters or my brother, And I told her that, and she just said that it made her feel so bad that she didn't know how to show us when we were there how much she appreciated us. And even though it doesn't change anything then, it does change something in my heart now about my situation, to know, like, she just didn't know how to express her appreciation for us. And I told her, like, one thing that really for years kept me from hearing her is, she would say, I did the best I could, and that's what a lot of our parents say to us. Like, I did the best I could with what I had. And I told her, I just need to hear that I wish I would have known to do better. It kind of just closes up the space between I did the best I could and us not having what we needed. I needed stuff from my mom that her saying I did the best I could doesn't fix. It doesn't fix it, because I know you did the best you could. Like, I mean, I don't imagine as your child that you had an option or a thought about doing things better and was just like, nah, I don't want to. Like, I want my life, my kids to be traumatized, and I want things to be chaotic in my life. Like, I think, like, yeah, in the situation you was in, you did do the best you could, but it don't change that those things were painful, you know? And it's not about wanting them to change anything. You can't change the past. That's what I told her. I know you can't change the past. It's not that I want that. I just want to feel a connection with you about um I didn't do the best I could. I didn't do the best for you. Like, I did the best I could, but it still wasn't the best for you. And I do apologize for that. And just talking to her yesterday, we were able to close up a lot of that, you know, even with a lot of times I was resentful to her being defending my dad, you know. I'm like, he didn't just leave us, he left you. Like, this is goofy that you defended him, you know. Because I seen the pain that you felt from what happened, you know. Like, what are you defending him for? Especially to me. I mean, you can defend him to strangers if you want to, but like, we were there. And she was just saying, like, but my dad was her husband. Like, she knows my dad. She knows that how much he loved her and how much he loved us, you know. And she didn't know, like, just what had happened and what went wrong. And in that moment, I just felt that I am their child. Like, even when my mom is doing things that I just don't understand, when she comes to a moment where she can explain it, I understand her because I come from her. And in that moment, I felt like, even though me and my dad had never talked about it, I understood him because I came from him. And I just spoke to my mom about how I never thought about marriage or children for years because I just could not understand what had went wrong between my parents. Like, I knew I was created in love. I knew my parents loved each other. I remember how we laughed, how we played together, how my parents would kiss each other, or we would just be like, you know, I remember those times. So I was just like, I really struggled with what went so wrong that everything just blew up. Like, nothing I knew was the same anymore. And so what I came to in my mind was that they just hadn't, or my dad just hadn't lived life before all of those things were put on him. Before he was obligated to be married and have children and find a good job to support us, he just didn't get to live life. Like, and I wanted to live everything that I could think of before I got a family, because I didn't want to be there with my children or sitting there being like, before I had y'all, or this is my dreams before I got married and had kids, and now it's tarnished into never land, you know. So I was just speaking to her like, I don't think he did it to hurt you. You know, I don't think it was about hurting you that he left. I think he's had a lot of jobs where he traveled, and just to that would speak to me that he wanted to he wanted a different scenery, and he wanted to experience different things, you know, being from a small town. And yeah, he just wanted to see things. And once he got there, he seen people with no obligations or commitments, and doing whatever they wanted, and he wanted to live that. And he did, but he didn't know how to tie us into that. Because yeah, there's been thoughts when people spoke to me about like, oh, why you ain't married yet, or why you ain't got kids yet. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine my life right now with kids, just because I didn't want my party to stop yet, or I didn't want to have to consider anybody else in those decisions. I wanted to just do what I wanted to do. And even in my relationships, I did. You know, if I was thinking about going on a trip, I didn't really being like, oh, I need to consider that they will feel a way about it. Or I joined the Air Force, and I don't know that I consider my partner at the time with that neither. I was just like, yeah, this is something I'm doing, and I'm gone, you know? And so I just feel like I was able to speak to her for maybe something she would never get from my dad. Because I do carry a piece of him, and I do carry an adventure in me, and I'm really inquisitive. I want to experience things, even though you're telling me I want to go see for myself. Like, I remember a couple years ago, people would be like, yeah, you the kind of person where they say it's snowing outside and you gonna go peek out the window. Cause I want to know for me, like, is it not that I don't believe that it's snowing, but is it a heavy snow? What's it looking like? I want to see for myself. And if I get that from him, I could see where having a wife and a kid at 20 would just be like, what the heck did I do? Like, because I could not imagine myself. I'm 33 years old, and I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, I can settle into this. Marriage sounds good to me. I think it's about time. I see over the hill, a kid is coming. Like, so I think it's healing on both sides is what I'm trying to say. And I really want us to take that opportunity to not just talk to our parents about our pain, even though it's important for us to talk to them so we can work through that and be better parents and be better people, but just to talk to them as people and really get their mentality on things, and why they view the things that they view in the way that they do. Because they were also just kids when they started with us. You know, you always hear like there's no manual on perfect parenting or how to be the perfect this. You know, we all just gotta live it and experience it. And I think, I know I'm a person that I don't have to experience everything. Like, I can learn from you. I can learn from my parents. I can learn from my siblings. Like, I don't have to go through every situation to learn it. And I don't think any of us do. I don't think we have to go through situations. I think sometimes we just can step back and just step out of judgment for a second and just talk to people. And I was able to do that with strangers before I was with my family. There was me going, I've always worked in service jobs. So from me working at the post office or working at Coda or working at, I worked at Land's End, I was a waitress, I was always working jobs where I served people and they would come and talk to me about their life, but because none of my pain was connected to them, I could hear their stories. Even when they're talking about that they're going through this with their kids or their partner or their friendships, I could hear them from an outside perspective because none of it swayed my life one way or another. But I think having those conversations have allowed me to be able to talk to my parents in the same way. And I look forward, even though I had that conversation with my mom, I look forward to having it with my dad. And that's growth, y'all. That just really made me smile, because this year has been growing your girl, okay? For me to be like, yeah, I just want to talk to my dad and see who he was and the decisions he made because of where he came from. Your girl is growing, okay? And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of my parents. There was a point that I don't know that my mom could have sat up and had that conversation with me. And it's because she felt judged, and I was at a place where I was judging her. Like, I'm like, nah, girl, I ain't trying to hear none of that. Explain to me why I felt this, I went through this, I did, you did this to me, and it's hard to explain those things without saying where you come from, or what molded your decision making. And I'm proud of my dad for thinking of me the other day and just sending that message, because it really warmed my heart and got me through a process, through another level of something else within myself. And I think it's important for all of us. So if it's not your parent, whoever raised you does have answers for you. It might not be, you might not be able to process that in the moment, because you're like, oh, it wasn't my mom, it was my grandma or my aunt or a foster parent raised me, but they got a little more information than you got. They were in the time of your parents not being able to care for you, or can give a little connection to that your parent was struggling or working through something that you can't feel in the moment. When I became an adult, I just couldn't feel what made my parents make those decisions, because I'm like, I would just choose not to have kids than to make the mistake. But yeah, maybe the mistake happened before you, or the mistake happened after you were already here, and you gotta just process through it. But the video froze. I ran out of storage, but I think it happened for me to call my dad. So while I was down, I was trying to figure out this part, I had called my dad to talk to him about that message he had sent me. And he had time today, y'all, okay? So we sat and talked about the way he grew up, and the confusion he faced in his life, and his regrets. And what he said was, when I was talking to him, is that he felt like an outcast, and that he should have stayed. And when he first said that, I thought he was saying like stay with my mom. And I don't always think that's healthy. If you're thinking you should separate, or there's no resolution for you in your relationship, I don't think that that's always healthy for your kids, for you to stay in a relationship until they get older, because a lot of the times they see a lot of toxic things in relationships that I don't think you were trying to show them by staying together when you don't want to be. But that's not what he was talking about. He was saying that he lived with my great grandmother until he got married, and he could have went there, or he could have went to his mom's house, and just been present for us growing up. And it was important to hear that from my dad. I told him about the talk I had with my mom, and her saying she knew him before we were born, and I was like, I just want to know who you were, and he talked about his rearing and him discovering that who he knew to be his dad wasn't his real father, and him finding out about who his dad was, and the sadness he felt after discovering who his dad was, that he didn't feel like he was acknowledged, and dealing with that. And I told him, I didn't know his experience growing up. I knew my grandmother, and I knew her telling us that wasn't our grandfather, but from me as a child, I had both of them. I had my dad's stepfather and his real dad in our lives. So I was looking at it as he had two dads, and he wasn't a good dad to us, But listening to him today, he was lived with my great grandmother and her aunt, who was my big ma. And, that's who reared him. So it is important to learn our parents' story, even if we think we know it, right? But yeah, I had a really good talk with my dad. Even hear him talk about what he's working towards as his next steps is what I'm working towards right now. And I don't know that I wouldn't have known it. I wouldn't have known it had we not talked today. And, he wanting to work on land, and he wants us, his family, to be together out there and working and giving what we got for it. And he even was talking about all he wanted is a wraparound porch on his house and a rocking chair. And I laughed and I said, we've never talked about that, and that's what I want, that's what I want. So it's crazy how you're rearing. And I laughed and I said, yeah, they come from Trudy May, which is my great grandma. But it's crazy how where you come from creates something in you and connects you in a way that you're oblivious to until you have the discussion. So, yeah. I'm going to tell you this. It's not going to always be smiles. These conversations are hard. I really got to get into the mind space to have them, because you got to be ready to accept what people are saying. It's not going to change anything you've lived. But if you're just trying to have an understanding of what made them think the way they were thinking, or what caused, life is cause and effect. What was the cause of some of the effects? To just have a true understanding, they are needed. But child, it is gonna take some energy right up out of you. I think my eyes are still hurting from talking to my mom yesterday. And I just reared them back up talking to my dad today. And to even hear him in a reflective place now of how things could have been worked out better, and that he was just being selfish in his decisions because he felt alone. So he was making his decisions alone. But hindsight is always 20/20, right? You can always look back at things and say how they could have been done better. but the willingness to share that he would have changed it if he could. To hear the sincerity of, or the regret of not doing it better. Is needed. You can't force these conversations. I tried to have this conversation with my dad. I want to say 12, 13 years ago. And he didn't even show up for it. But you gotta meet people where they are. He wasn't ready to have a conversation, and whatever he was going to tell me wasn't going to do for what it's doing now for us having this conversation. So it happened when it was supposed to. We wanted to be on our timing all the time. God's timing is something completely different, because he knows when our hearts are ready, when our minds are ready, when our spirit is ready to really digest it and not just demand answers for something people can't change. Woo cha! Woo cha! Thank y'all for sticking with me for this video. I know it's going to be a longer one, but I am grateful for the people that watch and share in these moments with me. I'm hoping that it really is helping people. I live in this transparent what the heck place. So some people ain't gotta live these moments, you know. I hope some parents watch this and go to their children instead of making their children seek out these answers from them. I hope if you're watching it and you're struggling right now, that you take something from this to alter something in your parenting. Because whether we like it or not, we are, as parents, molding somebody from birth. We are putting, even if God has a perfect will in them, the things we do alter them a little left or right each time. And the best we can do is heal ourselves up, so we just help them along to what they're supposed to be doing. I know what I deserve. I know what you deserve. I love y'all.